So there's a reason that I talk over and over again about you want to know God. This is going to be absolute for those that have ears to hear how you want to know God, because he will blow your mind. His mind is like it's beyond anything any human on this earth can do. So this oh, I probably should have waited to do this video, but my mind's so blown away. So I've talked before about, I found God in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've talked about this just recently, okay? And I've always said that step 11 is my favorite step. I've said that for years. I used to get excited to go into a meeting if it was about step 11. I'm like, oh, because I would love to hear what other people said of their experience with step 11, because step 11 is continue to keep a constant connection with God through prayer and meditation, not just in the morning, but throughout the day. And so I've done that like for 30 years. That's why I know God, okay? So I normally do that. Do I get off track sometimes? Yeah, but then I quickly get back on track. So, and I mean, to where I'm not doing it as much. I mean, I do it all, throughout the day. But at the end of 2018, and for those that have heard it, I'm going to make the story really quick because I get sick of repeating it. At the end of 2018, I started seeing 11:11 3 or 4 times a day without fail until the fall of 2020. I mean, I was telling people, like, this is crazy. So at some point along, by the fall of 2020, that's how long it took me. Here I'm walking with God every day. I turn my will and my life over to him every day. I surrender to him. I ask him to give me the strength to do his will and to let me know what his will is. I've done this for, decades, because I found him in doing, through the 12 steps. So, started seeing 11:11. Then in the fall of 2020, I was finally like, okay, there's no doubt you never have done this in the 30 years I've walked with you. You're trying to get my attention. What is it, God? Meditate, pray on this, and I need you to stay even closer to me. I need you to be like glue to me. Not even stray for a moment. Stay like glue to me, in constant connection, no matter what you're doing. And you could do that. You can. You're just always, he's always in the forefront of your mind, and you go to him for everything. All right. So, because I've done this for a long time, I understood the assignment. And this was so that I would not second guess, because anything that he gives me, because that's what God does. It's in the Bible that he does this. And I know it from walking with him. So, this is so that I would not question anything that I was being given, because if I'm in constant connection with him, it's only coming from him. So no second guessing, and speak up, okay? So I've been doing that for 5 years. Had numerous accounts taken down, like a lot of people, but I've been speaking up, doing his will. And so I've said I've learned a lot about the Bible and how it totally relates to, I've actually experienced a lot in the Bible, most especially John's gospel, and I didn't even know it all these years, okay? So it all ties into the same thing. And that was the other thing he said. He said, I want you to stick to the Bible. Now, okay, not that he wanted me to still do what I was doing, okay? It wasn't that the steps were wrong. He wanted me to realize how much in the Bible he had done with me that I didn't know. And that's been a mind blow. Okay, so then 11:11, step 11's my favorite. And so I've been fascinated too, as I said, with this arc of Trump's, because one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, who wrote the steps, had referred to the triumphal arc as, it's like the 12 steps, and you go through to your path of freedom. And yet I started thinking, I'm like 12 apostles, 12 steps. So just for the hell of it, I said to AI, I'm like, if you had to pick one apostle for each of the Alcoholics Anonymous 12 steps, which apostle would you pick, and for which step? And I'm not going to go through all the steps because a lot of people wouldn't understand it or be able, but it lined it up with the people, and it gave me the rationale for it. So, for instance, step 1 admitted we were powerless over alcohol, and really what you end up learning is you're just powerless over everything. You really are, okay? And that's why anybody can do the steps. Just, I'm powerless over my life, God. But admitted we were powerless over alcohol. Picked Peter. Why? Well, Peter had promised Jesus, I'll never deny you, then went on to deny him 3 times. Okay, powerless. All right. It picked Matthew here, you know, who was the tax collector, for step 8, which is make a list of all the people you have harmed and become willing to make amends to them. Okay, so it picked good ones. All right, like it made sense. John, this is Apostle John and James. These are brothers. These were the sons of thunder. James was picked for step 3, which step 3 is a huge one too. It's made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God every day. That's what I do. That's what I've done that's what many recovering alcoholics do every single day. We turn our will and our life over to the care of God. We ask him to give us the strength to do his will, whatever it is, okay? So James was picked for that, which makes sense too, because James was the one that had been fishing all day, and Jesus was like, put the net in one more time. And James was like, it's not going to make any difference, Jesus. And he's like, just do it. And so he did it, and there was like mass amounts of fish. And so he immediately dropped down, turned his will and his life over to God. Okay, so it all made sense, all right? And I of course, I should have known. What would John be? Step 11. Of course he would. That's why I relate to his gospel. It's all about surrender and the personal relationships. That's why his gospel stands out from everybody else's. But it goes deeper than that, okay? Because AI, when I was like starting to blow my mind, and AI had said that and not that I believe AI, but I was able to confirm all this. But it said the 1111 is a continuous connection. Okay, if you think about it, the visual of 1111, it looks like 4 pillars, or perhaps 2 sets of equal signs standing upright. It represents a bridge, a constant connection. It wasn't just a sign of God's presence. It was an invitation to an unbroken line of communication. No, that's for sure. But here he said it goes further. AI said it goes further. John 11:11, Apostle John 11:11 states that after saying these things, Jesus told his disciples, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him. This was when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, and all of the apostles were confused because they thought asleep. What does he mean asleep? Well, I've said to God, nobody is dead, because everybody has to be raised and judged. So to God, it would be asleep, but he was dead, what we know is dead, okay? But the thing is, so that's John 11:11. Then then there's John 11:1, okay? John, and really it's still 11:11, because there's 3 books of John's. So 1 John 11:1, so 11:11 again, is, now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. My name is Bethany. The other fascinating thing about this is that even though the Gospels don't say it, if you pray on it, it's very obvious, logic, and God will tell you, is that the reason John couldn't be killed, okay, he was the living martyr, and the reason he was the most beloved is because he believed before raising Lazarus from the dead was really the last biggest miracle Jesus did before being arrested. I mean, he had cut the Peter, when he cut the guard's ear off, there was that, but otherwise Lazarus was pretty much the last thing. John absolutely believed before Jesus resurrected, because he wouldn't have stayed at the cross. That's why Jesus called him the beloved apostle. See, they all fled because they didn't want to get arrested, showing they didn't have the true faith. They had it once Jesus resurrected and came back, but not before then. But he did. He had seen enough and believed, which is why they never could kill him, and he was the last to die, and he was the youngest, and he died of old age in his sleep. Yet John 11:11 is about raising Lazarus from the dead from his sleep, and he lived in Bethany. And Jesus traveled 6 times to Bethany. So you could say Apostle John and I have in common the number 11.